All right, so I decided to do, yes, part two of the reading, collective reading for Gemini. Okay, so let's see what the chart says about this. Let me share the screen here. Impromptu, there was no pre-preparing for this. It's just what it is, what I see. Based on what I remember from what I saw, something about trains, something about deserts. Let's see here. Hmm. I can see why you have that too. Right now, the moon is conjunct Sedna or Gemini, so that means that there's a sort of a drive to kind of just let it go, kind of let go of the thoughts. I'm getting those messages to say something about challenges and all that stuff, which is tied to Sedna as well. She did go through a lot of challenges. Her fingers were cut off, and long story. So she's the one who, um, not, I'm going to explain the story for those who haven't heard it. Sedna is the farthest drawn planet out there, for world discovered planet, and her story was basically that she was kind of lured by this raven or crow or something like that, some kind of bird. There's different versions of the mythology, and she was lured into it, but she didn't want to leave her family responsibilities. So she was caught in between two things, and her father tried to chase her because she was going away, and he was on a boat, or rather, she was on a boat and he was in a boat or something like that. But basically, the point is he's trying to chase her, trying to get her back, but she was kind of confused. And then the bird or flying creature um, created some sort of tornado or some sort of hurricane. Father got so scared, and scared for his life that he didn't know what to do. So Sedna fell off the boat. But as she tried to come up, he said no because he was afraid that the boat would, capsize or, sink, whatever, flip over. And he basically cut her fingers off. But eventually, when she fell into the water, she turned into these sea creatures, anemones, coral reefs, sea creatures, animals, whales, fish, sharks, whatever, dolphins. So she's much represents total complete acceptance of what is and having her needs basically met through trusting in the process. That totally makes sense. What it goes coincides with the reading itself. I'm kind of like, especially with thoughts, it's tied to Gemini. People that you deal with, your neighbors, the kind of travel sort of stuff. It's short distance travel, but at the same time, it's yeah. So there's a lot of transformation going on here with Uranus conjunct Sedna here. With the moon also transiting, she'll go away after a few days. This trine to Pluto, which is people you deal with, and sort of like knowing which people to deal with, right? So it's kind of sometimes you'll lose yourself in the process of like you lose people in your life, and that's part of what we're going through as a collective, anyways. How May here square Pluto. So I'm seeing right away this sort of transformative process of kind of going deeper in. Not sure what that desert thing was about. So it's Leo. I could see why. Varuna is here, so kind of like cohesion, sort of. Varuna is all about cohesion, sticking things together, kind of like, and also allowing for things to happen on their own in their own time, organic way of accomplishing something. But Leo rules deserts. Leo rules, she's tied to, it's tied to warm things, locations, far off places, places that you don't really go to, right? Um, see what else do I see here? What else did I see? There's hmm, something about the bird that explains the bird thing. The clawing, I'm not sure what that is. Something about the noses that explains it with is it Orcus or was it Kolar? Hmm. I'm not sure about that one. I believe it was orcas, kind of like going into little thoughts and kind of being picky and choosy. Retrograde is kind of like uncertain. I mean, it's repeated things. That totally makes sense why I got that. Plus, Mercury, the ruling planet of Gemini, is in Pisces, so it's vacillating as well. That totally makes sense. It's opposite of orcas, so kind of society itself going through this process of like, where do we go? If these are transiting your chart, and if you have any placements in the later degrees of Pisces, sorry, of Gemini, it, Venus and Mercury Orcus might actually square that. You actually have the South Node here square the Moon or square. Yeah, mainly the Moon. So right now, just so probably feel like today, specifically February 24, it feels probably like there's a pull, there's challenges with specifically like other people in the world, kind of holding on to analysis. But sometimes you just want to be like, I don't want to analyze too much, even though I could. It depends. Depends on who it is, right? So the Orcus opposite of Venus and Mercury here is showing me that integration has to take place between being honest with oneself internally or having doubts about it. You know, society's having doubts about whether they should take a specific direction, they should do the little things, and they're kind of wondering about it. Orcus is all about integrity. Opposite that of Mercury, Venus, it's almost like what we value, what we personally perceive and value put together in terms of how much do I let go of this whole, do I always need to be integral? Do I need to have integrity all the time? Kind of just let it go, right? That's very Pisces. What else is I see? I'm trying to remember what else. I keep draining John through the desert, so I'm only seeing Verona here, but it is, Verona is quincunx to Pallas Athena here, and also the North Node. So adjustments towards maybe coaches, people who are in leadership positions, or maybe things that are being dissolved, sort of wisdom that you probably thought you had, and kind of like maybe there's a part of you that doesn't want to cross that bridge, burn the rules bridges, and there's kind of like, but there's you can still adapt towards that. It's all about adaptation and figuring what you can do next in terms of like, how do I flow with this whole process so that I can still go to that thing that I desire from the heart. This is Leo. But at the same time, trust the process and trust the wisdom in the process. What's ahead, we don't know. With Varuna sextile Make here, it's also that whole thing with relationships. And if you allow yourself to organically allow for things to work on their own, meaning like you put in the work, you put in the effort, that's fine. It doesn't have to be something that you push towards, especially if there's a desire to push for it. Wisdom from relationships, your Makis sextile, retrograde also Varuna. So, but that also includes like being able to have all these relationships come to fruition through actually connecting, more like trusting the process and allowing yourself to download any sort of, well, literal download to any information that you get from these connections. Like these two signs are showing me that there's some sort of like flow that can happen naturally only if effort is made between your hot and cool self, if that makes sense. So being able to trust your leadership skills, but at the same time working with people and balancing that with others, never excluding anyone unless you really have to, not because you're excluding them, but because it's more like there's wisdom behind knowing when to, what battle to choose, if that makes sense. Okay, I think that's about it. That's all I'm getting for this one. Any other things tied to Merc to Gemini here? totally missed that one. The moon square North Node right now is probably uncertainty of emotions and how to deal with those. Maybe you might get into analysis as well, or analysis paralysis. Don't allow for that to happen. Just let it flow. And just don't think too much about the emotions, even though you might want to. It might also include that um, there might be something tied to yourself, like your chest area. If it's Gemini here, it's transiting Gemini right now. Watch out for not only emotions, but any chest area, sort of liquids that you put into your body. Snacking might be sort of a thing in the next few days. Maybe snacking a little bit more. Um, just doing the little things as well. And also at the same time, maybe you need to be a little bit more nitpicky. But that's where the train comes in. That totally makes sense why I got that image of the train going like this, right? So those are the big ones. Something about doors as well. Opportunities. That's tied to Jupiter here. If you have placements in Cancer, that explains the whole thing of like you have to trust the process, what's ahead, and get wisdom from the process that you're experiencing by allowing for things to kind of dissolve on their own and things to form on their own as well. um, Emotions will be kind of at a high, or rather, it'll be uncertain, and there might be tendency to kind of like brood or kind of like look inwards. But instead of brooding, of course, look inwards and see what those emotions really mean. Do some shadow work as well that will help. Um, Retrograde means here opportunities come in small places, maybe. Maybe if you're looking for a big business, it's tied to something to do with relationships, money, but also housing, and also there's real estate involved in this one as well. But retrograde here shows there could be a doubt, but there's a focus as well. Now, because these are transits, it's more like triggers. It's not necessarily your journey. Triggers could be that um, you might doubt your sort of sense of expansion. It is exalted. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, often representing the expansion can be done in a more secure way. It's not necessarily all like risk taking. Like it's it's a sign that it fits in. It's a Jupiter. It's in Sagittarius. So with it being in Cancer, it fits in well with kind of taking your time, biding your time in terms of like having those claws open and close. Sometimes it's okay to have those things because you get to choose, right? Itachi square to Makamake. So sometimes there might be challenges when it comes to relationships relating with people as well. Um, but allow for those little bits of moments to say, what can I get out of this? What is the gift behind all this stuff, right? So if you have strong Cancer placements, even though your sun is in Gemini, it means that you have you know, a sense of desire for a sense of security, like really home and connection with family. People become your family. You're a very homebody kind of person, things that are very like, this reminds me of home, like, food that is very like it just feels like home. Sometimes you'll need challenges in your life to grow, right? And that is part of growing as well. So just keep that in mind as well with a T squared 2 core here and also Ixion, watch out for people who probably are wanting to do it their way. Be honest with yourself, express yourself enough to say exactly what you want without having to cause a lot of chaos. And follow your path, follow what makes you go with the flow of life and see it as like challenges, see these challenges as a sign of like, okay, maybe it's time to grow, maybe it's time to change things up. There's a balance between, constancy and change all the time, right? Life and death. It's okay. This is part of the reality. You have to accept that. So, anyways, unsolicited advice, but I think that's about it. Thank you for watching. I think that's about it. Oh, there's another T squares here. To follow here, yes. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to try and test things. It's okay to have these little things happen. Even though it feels like it's big, you still have control over things, right? Don't ever believe that you can't control these things. You can't. When I say control, I don't mean like control. I mean like you do have free will. You have this option. The universe is unconditional. Trust that process and always be okay with it. Be okay with the challenges in your life. You might be triggered to question yourself and the pain that you feel about these things could go inside all the time and just allow for the energy, the sensation of the body to give you those messages. Or maybe it doesn't even have to have messages. It just could just be like, you know, question your decision and say, okay, but don't go too much into the mind. Balance it with everything else in yourself, right? Thinking too much in one direction, having something in one direction is not very balanced. But sometimes too, you don't need to always have a balance. You could always just go in one direction and see where that leads you, right? Either way, if you make a mistake, you make a mistake, you learn from that. That's what we're here for. So, anyways, I think that's it for now. I'm getting hungry. I not fasting today. I was fasting, so but thank you very much for watching. That's about it. I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching part two. Have a good one. Bye.